You're listening to RC Flightcast podcast with Frank Betts. Hey there, welcome back to RC Flightcast, where the hangar's open, the battery's charged, and we're talking all things radio-controlled aviation. I'm your host, Frank, and today we're getting into the nuts and bolts of getting, started in RC flying. This one's for the curious, the nervous, and the folks who've been eyeing those YouTube flying videos thinking, hey, I want to give this a try myself. Hey, that's the way I started out. So let's talk about how to get started in RC flying the smart way. Save some money, avoid the beginner mistakes, and most of all, have fun without frustration. So I'm going to put these in parts. And so part one is choosing your first plane. Let's start right at square one, the plane itself. Don't start with your dream plane right off the bat. We all want to fly that P-51 Mustang, the F-14 Tomcats, or the twin-engine bombers. But that's like trying to drive a race car before you've mastered a go-kart. So true. Hey, you want something stable, slow, and simple. Look for a high-wing trainer. And that means the wings sit on top of the fuselage, which makes it more stable in flight. Also, when you get something with some dihedral, so that it's stable, it doesn't fall off either wing while you're flying there. It seeks out a good level flight path. So, anyway, here's a few examples I've either flown or seen beginners succeed with, or even talk about on some of the forums I've been on. So here's a little list I come up with. First one is one I actually just bought, an FMS 1220 millimeter Ranger. It's about 51-inch wingspan. Tough and easy to see while you're flying, and it flies great. Only thing about that Ranger, though, it doesn't like grass or rough fields. So you kind of need like an asphalt or a smooth stone or smooth dirt to take off and land on. Otherwise, you're going to nose over, even though it's got that spring-loaded front nose gear, which is, I don't know. People can take it or leave that, but definitely nose over if you get on any kind of grass. So, yeah. So that's pretty much what I do. I fly down here at my local church area, and they got a big old asphalt driveway plus a big old grass field off to the side of that, and I find myself just doing touch and goes on the asphalt. But anyway, then you got the Volantex T-28 Trojan. That's cheap and fun to fly. I've seen people flying that on YouTube, but I never really paid that much attention to it. And of course, you got the Hobby Zone Sport Cub S2. That's a small thing, little small plane. Great for small parks. If you got a side lot you need to fly in or whatever, that's a great one for that. But and then you have your E-Flight Apprentice ASTS, and it's just a little more expensive, but solid and packed with trainer features, which is what you want. And let me say this, foam is your best friend, and I know that for a fact. Foam planes bounce better. They break, sure, but you can glue them back together with some hot glue or some CA medium glue. Now you can glue them right back together in minutes. Not going to look the best, but hey, you can keep flying, right? Balsa looks nice, but foam forgives. Balsa, I grew up on the balsa stuff, or my dad actually did. He built all the planes, and I flew them. And but finally one day he goes, you know what? You crash that plane again, I'm done. And sure enough, I tangled with a telephone pole, and he said, that's it. So from there on out, I went into the little simple profile stuff, or they're already built, because I just have no patience for building up balsa planes or anything. It's just not my thing. So then we get to the transmitter. This is part 2. And, this is what you hold in your hands. Duh. And think of it as the steering wheel and pedals of your RC plane. Now, a word of warning, don't go too cheap here. You might be tempted to buy that $30 Amazon no-name transmitter. Skip it. Radio gear is one of those buy right or buy twice areas. Here's some solid beginner transmitters. One of them is a FlySky FS16, and then you have the FS16X, which instead of just 6-channel, you can go 10-channel. And it's incredibly affordable, reliable, and supports, like I said, from 6 to 10 channels. And then you got your Radio Master Boxer or Zorro. More advanced, but great if you plan to stay in the hobby. And then you have the Spektrum DXE or DX6, which is really popular with the RTF stuff, the ready-to-fly stuff. So if you buy a plane where you just want to unbox it, put the wings on it and go, that's what you're going to find most of the time is that Spektrum radio. A little pricier, but that's what you get. And it gets you started. And then make sure whatever transmitter you get, something you can grow with. Me, I've always been rudder, elevator, and throttle. I never was too much one for having flaps or ailerons. And although I do have a plane now that has ailerons and flaps, I'm glad I have my 6-channel radio because it just about fills up the slots there. So I've also got a Futaba TFC. It's a 6-channel, but I mean it's a stable radio. Futaba makes some really good stuff, and I've had it since the mid 2000s, and I'm still using it. But hey, it's like I actually got the FlySky FSI6. I bought it for $60 on Amazon, and it even comes with a little receiver, and you can get those separate for about $18. So you can go ahead and put them in all your planes, and you don't have to keep switching things out. And that little transmitter is very good. I mean, it's pretty versatile. It's got the screen on the front. You can look at what you're adjusting, and you can make quite a few adjustments to how you want to fly. So now we get into part 3, which is the simulator. And I guess you could call that practice without crashing, but except for virtually. But I'm going to hit on this one pretty hard. Flight simulators are worth every penny. And I can't stress this enough. A good sim will let you fly, crash, and learn for 0 repair costs. And here's your main options. Now, the first one's the one I got. It's the Real Flight Evolution, and that's the best one in my opinion. It's got wide plane selections, great physics. The graphics not so hot, but you just want to concentrate on the plane, and I think they do a really good job. I mean, there's a couple of close planes on the simulator compared to what I've got that I really fly, and the physics really are close. And I use it too to keep up the motor skills, because if you got a plane coming right at you, as you know, the controls are going to be opposite, and then when you fly away, of course, the controls are going to be correct as you move them. And not only that, but have a little fun with it. Get a little crazy, you crash it, like I say, a couple seconds later it automatically resets and you take off again. So Real Flight Evolution, I think I paid $100 for that, and it even come with a transmitter. Plugs into a USB port on your computer, and then you can sit there and fly all day long. But then they've got RC Desk Pilot. It's free and decent enough to get a feel for the sticks. And then you got the Picasim, which I've never dealt with. I've seen it, but I've never tried it. But it's a lightweight, free for slower computer systems. And but you can actually get something if you have I think it's Spektrum. That you can take a USB sim transmitter for Well, I mean, actually, you can go buy one online there for 20 or 30 bucks and then plug it in your PC, and then you're flying virtual planes in no time. Or, like I said, I believe you can buy some kind of a adapter, and then you can actually use your own transmitter if you want. But I believe it's got to be like a Spectrum radio. But anyway, most people who start with a sim can land on their first real flight days without totally destroying their plane. And that's a win, It's got to like that. So anything to get your odds up to not crash that first time out. And then we got part 4, flight conditions, and pick your battles. Weather matters. And if you're new, avoid gusty winds, hot thermals, any crowd or heavy traffic around you. Because you can get really distracted. You got somebody breathing down your neck wanting to know what you're doing, and you're trying to fly and explain to them, or just tell them, hey, back off a little bit while I'm flying, kind of stuff. Or you got people nearby and you're trying not to crash and avoid them, so you don't need that. And a good idea is like early morning or just before sunset. Winds are usually pretty calm there, and the weather's pretty well settled down. If it's raining or anything, better chance of it stop raining. I've flown in the rain though. Cover my transmitter with a baggie, keep flying, and it works. But wide open fields like parks, soccer fields, church parking lots like I fly out of, or even an AMA flying field. And I've got one of those down the road too. But I don't really see too many people down there flying or anything. I don't know if I could just sneak in there or not. But heck, as long as I got my big old church over there down the road, I'll just stick with that. But if you're flying something under 250 grams, like a small park flyer, even a 10-mile-an-hour breeze can ruin your day. And, of course, as you know it and I know it, wind is invisible. Don't let it surprise you. It'll come back to bite you if it's too windy out. So, okay, and then we get to part 5 here, which is join a club or get a mentor. And I've done both of those. Hey, this idea is underrated. Just go find a local RC flying club. Even if you're a lone wolf kind of guy and just don't like a lot of people around. I mean, I've joined flying clubs, and they give you the key to the place, and you show up out there, put the key in there, and open the gate up there. Whew, excuse me. And just go in there and do your flying. And I gotta say, over my span of flying time, which goes back to the 70s, 80s, I don't remember that many people per se being around there at any one time when I go out to fly. You might see 2 or 3 out there, but then sometimes they go out there, set their stuff up, sit in a chair, and just hang around and talk. So, got to do what you got to do. But, having somebody there who knows what they're doing nearby can save you dozens of frustrating hours. And you're going to learn safe flying practices, how to properly bind your radio, and battery safety and charging. That's a big one. And how to spot issues before takeoff. That's another big one. And most important, someone to help you trim the plane, take off, if you're nervous. And most experienced flyers remember their first flight, and they're usually glad to help out. So you can search for AMA clubs near you, on their websites. Just do a search. And even if you're not a member yet, many clubs welcome visitors or offer buddy box training flights. And the buddy box is pretty cool, because what it is, it's a trainer box. It's just a basic transmitter, and you have a cord coming off of it and onto the person who's trying to teach you to fly. We call that an umbilical cord. But he'll get the plane flying, and you'll have your own transmitter. And then when he thinks you're ready, he'll let go of the let up on a button there, and that'll bring your transmitter live. And then you can sit there and do what he asks you to. And if you get in trouble, you know, he can hit that button again. Your transmitter will be shut off, and it'll go back to him, and then he'll be able to correct any problems and get you back on track again. So that buddy box is pretty nice. Now, when I was learning, all I did was gave him the transmitter, stood beside him, watched his hands, watched the plane, and then once he leveled it out and got it slowed down, he'd hand it to me and go, look, just, you know, make a slight turn, or you can dive or climb a little bit, but don't mess with the throttle and just make gentle turns. And pretty soon, before you know it, he'd have me set up to do my landings and all that, and I was good to go after that. But it was great having somebody there keeping an eye on me so I didn't crash or tear anything up. And I got lucky. I didn't tear up nothing. So part 6 here is your first flight and what to expect. So you've got your plane, your transmitter, you've practiced on the sim, now it's time to fly. And here's the order of operations for your first flight. And this is what I made a note of here. Let me check my little show notes right here. Yeah, right here. First one is range check your radio. And most systems have a range test mode. And you use it. There's been a couple of times of my flying around that my plane has actually gotten away from me. I've seen other people where their planes got away from them. And because they got out of range, they just kept on going. They couldn't get them back. I mean, I've had mine so high, though, and for another instance where I didn't know what it was doing. I finally chopped the throttle, and it eventually just did a lazy leaf going back and forth as it stalled and dropped and stalled and dropped. And it got down low enough there where I could see what was going on, and then I was able to take back over. But it's only takes a second. Lose that plane there. If you lose orientation or just, I don't know, just get a little lapse of where you're at, and bam, you're going to crash it. So also check the controls before takeoff. Make sure it's up is up and right is right and left is left. You'd be surprised how many people go to take off their plane after messing with it and the controls were backwards. The linkage is hooked up backwards. It happens. So, and always launch your plane into the wind. That's your best bet. You want to take off with good control and everything. Make sure that wind is coming at you. And take off smoothly. Don't yank back on the controls, and just let it build up speed, and then lift it off the ground and just be gentle with it. That's where having a lot of room to fly comes in handy, because you can just let it go out a little bit till you get control, and then you start your turns or whatever you want to do there, and then you can go from there. But keep it level as long as you can, and then just small stick movements. Don't overcorrect. And then you can just fly high enough and give yourself plenty of room. And watch out for the trees. And land before the battery dies. Duh. I always kind of go with a 5-minute rule. I fly like crazy I got a little timer. If you get a good radio, you can have timers put in there that lets out an audible like beep or a buzz, like a minute before your time's up. It gives you time to bring it back or start thinking about bringing it back. And I've been lucky. I've never had the batteries die out. I've run them really low before. And I've got a tester that when I land, I test my batteries. I like to see just how close I can get to minimal percentage of how much I've drained that battery. And I usually get about 25 to say 35% is where I want to have it. And then just let the battery cool down before you go to, recharge it. And don't forget, breathe. Take it easy. Just relax. You're flying. Don't panic if it wobbles. That's normal. So just, take a deep breath. And remember, every pilot crashes. That's how we learn. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. I mean, I've had my share. Dumb moves. Sometimes I get a little too cocky. I remember my dad told me after I'd been flying for years, and he said, you know what? You crash this time, I'm done. And it was a while later, but I tangled with a telephone pole, and it come crumbling down. He goes, that's it. I'm not building it no more. So I wound up getting the ready to fly stuff because I can't build that stuff. I mean, I can build the little simple profile stuff or the little scrap build wing and simple fuselage, but you get into that balsa stuff or whatever, and I just have no patience for that. And okay, part 7 is final tips and what's next. And before I wrap this up, here's a few parting tips for you. And let's see here, buy extra props. Yes, I usually carry about 3-4 extra props with me, and trust me, you're going to need them. All you need to do is nick the ground or just normal wear and tear, cutting through grass, or you catch a pebble or a rock or something like that. It'll knock it right out of balance before you know it. So always keep an eye on your prop. It's a smart move to don't take a chance, just replace it. Don't forget to label your batteries. I do that, and that keeps track of the charge cycles and helps spot the dead ones. I've got a really nice balance charger, which you should invest in, because when you plug it in to charge, the charging unit will bring each cell up to evenness and then charge the whole thing up so that not any one cell charges faster than the other, because that can be really hard on a battery. So invest in a good balance charge. And the one I got too is it's a combination. I can charge at home under 110 volts, or I can put an adapter on there and I can charge it right off of my car battery. And I've gone all day long running off my car battery. So there's no problem there. And learn to use throttle exponential setting. That makes the plane less twitchy near center stick. So just it makes for a smooth throttle operation, so you don't have any, surprises. So, just look that up. Throttle Expo. It'll explain a lot better. And most of all, you got to have some fun. That's all there is to it. That's the whole idea of this, is just relax, have a little fun. If you crack up, well, like I say, that's just the way it goes. And RC flying is an amazing hobby that combines engineering, skill, and that childlike sense of wonder every time you watch your plane take off. And it happens to me. I always have a good time when I'm flying there. Get it up in the air there and go do your thing, and bring it around and bring it in nice and neat and grease it in and chalk it up to a good flight right there. So I'm going to wrap this up. That's going to be it for today's RC Flightcast. I try to keep them around 20 minutes long. So if you've been thinking about trying RC flying, there's no better time right now. Get a good trainer, find a field, and maybe a buddy to fly with, and just get started. And that's all there is to it. And I'll be back next time with another hands-on topic for flyers like you and me. And if you got a question or want to suggest a topic, just shoot me an email at frontcentermusician@gmail.com. Or you can, down in the comment section, you can make your comments or whatever there, and I'll try to answer them, or just have a conversation with you. So until then, keep your wings level, your batteries charged, and your flight smooth. We'll catch you next time.